Hi everyone, welcome. Welcome to this first webinar in the Drupal AI awareness series. Before diving into the webinar, I'd quickly take a minute to talk a little bit about Oaisys. I'm sure most of you would have heard about Oaisys and this Drupal AI webinar being a part of an event for a code sprints, which is going to be conducted at Oaisys. Oasis is an AI practitioner event. It's basically focused on builders, makers, people who use AI, applied AI in their day-to-day lives. What we're looking at doing with Oasis is bring such people together in a place, have raw conversations, what is working out, as well as what's not working out for you. When we hear about AI, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of conversations which talk about AI being able to do X, Y, Z. But what's the reality versus hype is what we look at demystifying as part of this conference. We're looking at two different tracks, one which is Drupal AI specific track, very focused on AI enablement within Drupal CMS. And the second track, which is platform agnostic AI, where it could be Python, it could be LangChain, it could be anything that you have been experimenting around applied AI, and to encourage that kind of a conversation at Oasis. Quickly talking about Drupal AI webinar series, the idea behind this series is right now, if you go to the Oasis website, you would see there are 3 or 4 different webinars scheduled as part of Drupal AI webinar series. But the idea behind this series is to get the developer community very comfortable with Drupal AI, not just being able to use Drupal AI and build applications on top of it, but also to be able to contribute back to the growing Drupal AI ecosystem. A couple of housekeeping rules as a part of this webinar. It's going to be an interactive session where Akhil will be doing certain things on his screen. Feel free to follow along with him. Questions are more than welcomed. I would recommend everyone uses the meeting controls within Google Meet to post questions, and we would keep slots to cater to those questions either at the end of the webinar or in between slots. This meeting is being recorded, so the recording will be available and shared with people who have RSVP for the event. You can feel free to share this recording with your colleagues, your friends who are not able to attend this for whatever reason. One quick request with everyone, make sure that your mic is muted when you're not speaking. We will try to control this using host controls, but I would request everyone to also keep a check on this. Let's dive in. Today's speaker is Akhil. A quick short intro about him. Akhil is a long-time contributor to Drupal AI ecosystem. He has been tinkering a lot with Drupal AI since the initial days. He is someone who's working very closely with enabling prompt-based site building within Drupal using Canvas AI. He also maintains AI agents module, which makes him the most suitable candidate to have this conversation about. In today's session, we're not going to dive very much deeper into the session. Today's talk is at a foundational level, where we'll be trying to get you comfortable with getting started with Drupal AI. How do you get started with your first few out-of-the-box features? How do you debug implementations that you're doing with AI? What are a few tools which are available in the box? And then we'll also be looking at how the contribution journey to Drupal AI could look like. All right. I'll hand it over to you, Akhil. You can take it over from here.
I hope everyone can hear me. So the main agenda for today's session is to give you an overview of AI module, and we'll be also looking at how to set it up, how to set up the Gemini provider. Then we'll be exploring the CKEditor module, content suggestion module, and then if something goes wrong, how you can debug. Finally, if you want to get involved with the AI initiative but don't know how to contribute, we'll be also looking at that. We'll be fixing an issue from AI initiative in this session, and we'll be raising an MR for it. So adding AI features to your Drupal site is simply a 3-step process. First, you need the AI module, which is going to act as the foundational module, which provides all the framework for the AI operations. Then a provider is required, which is the actual AI layer. Many providers are, like, there are integration modules available for most of the main providers, like OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, all these things. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. So you need to have for a provider and then simply install the provider module and you're good to go. And it provides different services, APIs, and an abstraction layer for integrating multiple AI providers. And it provides different APIs for handling multiple AI operations like chat or image generation, text to audio generation, audio to text. So this module does all the heavy lifting for us. So if you have a cool idea or cool AI feature that you want, you don't need to do everything from scratch. You can simply add AI as a dependency, reuse the services, and focus on the features that you want to add. And AI module, like simply installing the AI module won't be enough to get all the AI features to your site. Like it comes with a bunch of submodules. So for content generation, there is content suggestion module, CKEditor module, translate module. For automation, there are automators, ECA, validations, and for interfaces, there is chatbot. You might have used the chatbot that comes with Drupal CMS, and then AI Assistance API, which is basically a backend layer for creating chatbots. Then there is Field Widget Actions, which provides a UI for content suggestion and automators. Then if you want to set up semantic search, there is AI Search module. To debug, there are three modules available: API Explorer, AI Logging, and AI Observability. So the next major version of AI module is version 2, and a lot of these modules are going to be taken out of AI core and they are going to become contrib modules. But in the current stable release, if you download the 1.2 version, all these modules will be available within by AI core itself. And in today's session, we will be focusing on these modules: content suggestion, CKEditor, and field widget action, and we'll be also using the debugging tools. We are going to use Gemini provider for this session because Gemini provider is free. You don't need to give any credit card details or payment information to start using Gemini. It offers a free tier, and there's an integration module available as well. So let's start the demo. I'll share my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes,
Oh.
Akhil.
Thanks, Piyush. So I have a vanilla Drupal 11 site here set up with demo Umami profile, and I have already downloaded AI module and Gemini provider. So I'm going to install them now. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe let's just stop and restart sharing.
All right. Akhil should be joining back in a minute or so. But in the meanwhile, can we have quick show of hands in terms of people who are hearing about Drupal AI for the first time here? Or even you've not explored Drupal AI, not installed the Drupal AI module locally. Okay. All right. 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14. I see the count rising. Okay. Yeah, this session is going to be very helpful for you guys because what we're trying to do is start from foundation, wherein you get started with basics in terms of how to, like, where to get started with, how to get started with, how do you debug things when something is not working as expected, and then looking at contributions. How do you contribute back to Drupal AI? Yeah, Drupal Forge is a good platform, Rahul. Allows you to debug things. Deepa, I think your question is more about tips on preventing rate limit errors when testing out these AI modules. It's kind of contextual, I would say. If you're using Gemini as a key, the rate limits are pretty low. Similarly, with OpenAI, the rate limits are different. It's a matter of which provider you're using, number one. Number two, I think there's certain strategies which we usually use. One, which is like retry with exponential backoff as a strategy in terms of like once if the request via your API key failed, hit a rate limit, you try another request maybe for 2-3 times, but with an exponential backoff, which means that first retry happens at 1 second. In that case, the second retry should happen 1 into n seconds later, so that you're giving your LLM provider enough time to cool down on the rate limits. But yeah, I think we can discuss this question a little bit more in depth towards the end of this call as a part of Q&A session. Deepa, you can also unmute yourself and maybe use this time to talk about the problem statement if you want, if that didn't help.
Yeah, hi everyone. Hi Piyush. Thanks for this session. Like this is a much needed session, like, to get started on Drupal AI modules. Like we have been reading so many news about it, but then like to get our hands dirty, like this is a great start. Yeah, I've been using OpenAI LLMs, but yeah, it works. Like by the time we get used to that, testing out and, figuring out things like, we reach this rate limit errors, and even changing the models does not seem to work. And I don't know, like, I'm not aware, like, how long we should wait or where we can see that, when it is, like, we can try again with success.
Okay. And are you using I mean, for different models as well, there are different rate limits with OpenAI, number one. I can suggest something for production use case because that's what we have been trying recently. There's something called as light LLM proxy. Drupal AI has a provider Similar to OpenAI, it has a provider available for Light LLM proxy. What Light LLM proxy allows you to do is it allows you to configure LLM providers at its backend. So it's sort of a proxy which takes care of routing your requests to either OpenAI or Gemini or any other LLM provider. What you can do is you can create multiple keys there for one provider, which means that your another key will be used as a fallback if the first key fails. And Light LLM takes care of doing this all automatically. So maybe read up on Light LLM proxy a little bit if you're trying to implement something in production. It's an abstraction layer on top of any LLM provider that you want to use as a part of your projects.
I also shared one link inside the chat, which might help with this one. So AI module comes as one of the field. There's a video around how you can mock the responses and while you are developing and testing something. So this could also be helpful to solve your problem, Deepak.
Thanks, Anand.
Okay. How about now?
This is visible.
Okay. So you can see me typing here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll move quickly to installing CKEditor. So it comes as a submodule of AI. So I'm going to install that from here. And then I have also installed Gemini provider module. To set up a provider, basically first you need to get the API key. So the API key for Gemini provider can be downloaded from Google AI Studio. So I have already created an API key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the API key. So from your configuration, add a key here, give it a name, give the key value here and save. Once it is saved, go to configuration again. And from there would be provider settings available. Let me just install it from that module as well.
Yeah, the best part with the AI ecosystem is the framework that it's providing within Drupal. It allows you to extend and build integrations with any AI provider out there. Gemini is just one of them, but over 22 providers are supported today with Drupal AI.
Yep. And since I have installed the module, I can see this under AI providers. If you install OpenAI, if you set up OpenAI provider module, then that will be also listed here, and all the providers will be listed here. From here, select the API key that we created earlier and simply save it. That's it. That's how we set up the provider. Now that the provider is set up, we need to actually verify if we are able to connect with the Gemini API. For that, AI provides a module called AI API Explorer. And this module comes as a submodule of AI. Let's install this module. And once it is installed, when we come back to configuration, we can see this API Explorer option. Once the provider is configured, it's a good idea to set the default models for different operations. So the default models can be set from AI default settings. So here there are multiple operation types available, like speech to text, image classification, text to image, all these things. In this session, we'll be mainly focusing on chat. Go to the chat operation here and select the provider. Once the provider is selected, all the available modules will get listed. I'm going to use 2.0 Flash here and save the configuration. So seeing the model list here itself is a good indication that we have set up the provider correctly. But if we need to actually make a call to the Gemini provider and get the response, we can use this API Explorer and Chat Generation Explorer specifically. So this provides an interface to actually communicate with the providers. You might have used, if you have OpenAI subscription, there is OpenAI Playground. Similarly, there is Google AI Studio. So in the same way, in Drupal AI also, we get this where we can give any input and test the output. I'm going to say, explain what we get a response. So this indicates that the provider is properly able to communicate with Gemini API. And the good thing is, if we need to do this programmatically, we get the code for this as well. How to make an AI code programmatically. Okay, now that the provider is properly set up, let's configure the CKEditor. We have already installed AI CKEditor module. To configure it, go to text format and editors. In the Umami profile, we have a lot of articles available. And our aim is to provide a way to generate the body for articles with AI. So if we look at the content edit form, we can see it's using basic HTML format. So what we are going to do is we are going to enable HTML format. For that, go to configuration, text format and editors, basic HTML, and you'll be able to see this AI CKEditor option simply in the available button. So simply drag it and paste it to the toolbar. And once that is done, we get this AI tools option, which lets to control the AI modal properties. Then out of the box, it supports around 8 AI features generated with AI. Help and support, it basically opens a URL to the issue queue of AI in a modal. But there is reformat HTML, which lets to properly structure the content. Translate is for translating. Fix spelling is to fix the spelling. So let's explore one of the options, which is generate with AI. I'm going to enable that. And once it is enabled, we can select the provider. So it's a good practice to select this option, use the default provider, because then whatever default provider is configured in AI default settings, that the settings we did first where we configured the chat model for the chat operation, right, that will be set here. So that if we enable all these features and select this, and later you need to experiment with another model, you don't need to update this configuration again and again. You just need to change the model from the AI default settings. I have selected this and let's save the configuration. And then before testing it, I'm going to enable the logging module as well, so that we can see the actual request that is sent to the model. Here is AI logging. Install that. And once AI logging is installed, we get this AI logging option under configuration. And to start capturing the logs, we have to set this automatically log requests and responses option. And now we are good to go. I'm going to add a new article. And we get this AI assistant option here, and generate with AI is enabled here. I'm going to ask, write an article on how to bake the perfect Christmas cake. And we can see we are waiting for response, and we are getting the response from the model. And to save the changes, simply click on Save Changes to Editor. Here let's remove this HTML tag from top and bottom. And I'm going to copy this title as well and paste it here. Save. And there we go. We have generated an article with AI. And if we check the log for this under configuration, AI logging, AI logs, we can see that request that was actually sent to the LLM. And if you look closely, the actual prompt that we wrote, write an article about how to bake the cake, is we have some extra details that are appended before the prompt. So these are the tags that are allowed within this HTML format. So the AI CKEditor module automatically detects the allowed tags when started with the prompt. And that's why that's how this is working. And since this is a streamed response, we won't be able to see the output, exact output here. If you have noticed, when we asked it to generate an article, it started with a title. But let's say we don't want a title because the title is already there. So the articles, the body field should mainly focus on generating the main body of the article. One way to configure that is open the editor, and we can explicitly ask the agent generate only the main body of the content, do not generate the heading. But then if you need to create another article, we need to repeat the same thing there as well. Instead of that, what you can do is you can go to configuration, and under the generate with AI option, we get this completion pre-prompt. So whatever we add here will also get prepped before the user input. So I'm going to say, do not start with a heading, start with a strong opening paragraph. And let's save this configuration. And from here, let's try this one more time. So I'm going to remove it and say, write an article on how to make the perfect Christmas cake. And here you can see it. This time it actually started with a paragraph. It started with a strong tag, but that can be refined with prompt. And if we go towards the end, we can see it added a footnote. So this is how we add some global instruction. If you are integrating this for a particular brand and they have some brand guidelines that should be followed, whenever CKEditor is used. This is how you do that. Now I'm going to save this. Then let's say I have generated the article, but there is this tags field, and I need to add appropriate tags from the list of available tags. So in Umami profile, we have a lot of terms available here. So I want the AI to automatically look at the content of my page and select the most appropriate tags available. For that, we have another module. We can basically use two modules, automators, but we can also accomplish that using content suggestions. So AI content suggestion module is basically to look at the existing, do something on that, like suggest taxonomy terms, suggest a title, evaluate readability. These kinds of things can be configured using a content suggestions module. So let's go and install that module, a content suggestions. And once the module is installed, you get this a content suggestion settings under configuration AI. And it also offers a bunch of options like suggest taxonomy terms, evaluate readability. And for CKEditor and content suggestion, whatever options you see here, these are all custom plugins. So if you want to add your own custom plugin, you just need to look at the source code of this plugin. For example, for CKEditor, someone has created another custom module that lets to select an already uploaded file from the system and generate some content based on that. So if there is some kind of brand guideline document, and if an FAQ need to be created based on that, you can use that module. So everything within these AI modules are extensible because these are all built on top of plugin system. So I'm going to select this enable suggest taxonomy terms option. And you can see there are two prompts here. One is to generate terms vocabulary. AI will suggest some terms, and that terms might not be present in the tags vocabulary. Then if you want the AI to restrict generating the terms to tags vocabulary, then to a particular vocabulary, we have to use this prompt. So both options are available here. I'm going to enable it on save configuration. And once this is saved, I'm going to enable two more modules. So we saw how a logging module can be used to log requests. And so there is one more module called a Observability, which basically helps to generate more detailed logs. And I'm going to install that module. And this module basically for AI logging, the logs reside under configuration AI. Observability module helps to capture the log from in dblog module itself. But if we integrate with other modules, let's say Logger, there is a contrib module called Logger and Logger DB. These modules help to further enhance the AI logging. If you need to create detailed statistics on AI usage, which requires the most tokens and all, those things can be done with these three modules. So Logger and Logger DB are separate contrib modules that are not part of Drupal AI. But AI observability module helps to integrate with these two contrib modules. So now that AI observability is installed, let's go to AI observability settings and enable this log input and output option. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the article I created, and we can see there is this suggest taxonomy terms option available since we enabled that. And we have this use source vocabulary option. When I check this, I can select which vocabulary should be used. And if I click on suggest taxonomy terms here, I get these terms, baking, cake, and these terms should be already present here. Here you can see these are all the available terms. So I'll just copy this, paste it here, and save my article. And if I go to reports and logs, I can see the log captured with AI observability, and which gives a proper JSON representation of what happened behind the scenes. Here you can see the prompt that was configured with the AI content suggestion settings got added here, and I can see the actual content of the page. We didn't select any field, so whatever content was there in the node edit form, that was sent to the LLM.
I have a question here. Can I ask it right now?
Let's
Chat, and we'll come back to the questions.
Okay, resuming. So here we can actually see the input that was sent to the agent with the taxonomy term prompt, then the content, and after the content, we can see the terms from the tags vocabulary is also appended with the prompt so that it will only select the available term. And then the raw output section shows the output that was sent from the agent. And this is how content suggestions work. But the one disadvantage of this is that we have to manually copy the contents and paste it here. But there is a module, another submodule available called Field Widget Action, which provides a better UI for content suggestion. I'm going to install that module, Field Widget Actions. It's now installed. And now what I can do is I can go to the manage form settings of my content type. And I need to generate the type based on the existing content. When I configure it, I get this new Field Widget Action option. For the button label, let's say give the button label as generate title and enable suggestion. And here we have to give the prompt on how to generate the title. So I'm going to say suggest 3 titles based on the content in the same language. And if we want to look at only the main body, then we can use tokens as well here after installing the token module. So I'm asking you to suggest 3 titles and update it and save. Now, if I go to my article, I get this generate title option. And when I use it, it gives the titles in a pop-up. And I can select the title I want. And once I select it, that title gets automatically saved in the title field. And if you look at the log of the response from the agent, then we can see this time it is returning data in a particular JSON format, which is required by the module to create this pop-up and modal intro. Someone raised it. I would recommend let's finish this and afterwards I'll answer the questions as we have limited time. Okay, so I hope this field widget action configuration is also clear to everyone. The next thing I wanted to focus is on how to contribute to Drupal AI. For that, I have to share my terminal. Let me try to share my terminal again.
Yeah, I can spend 5 minutes on questions. And Mole, your question about can it take input from layout builder component or will it just be node edit form? I think Automator's AI content suggestions module, they primarily support node edit today. I know that there was some effort being done around AI layout builder, but that was more from a component usage and generation perspective. You should be able to find a module on Drupal.org about AI layout builder. But if your question is just, can you explain your question a little bit more? Like you have created a page using layout builder and then you want that content to be taken as a source for your tags.
So my question is that if I'm creating a page using layout builder, there are chances that I don't have any fields in the content type. I place the blocks using on the layout builder page. So in that case, if I want to generate tags based on the components that I have.
From what I understand, layout builder module stores the data with the node in layout section. There's a hidden field where the data is stored. So you can technically plug the input from that field with AI content, not using site build for sure.
Yeah, adding to that, basically the content suggestion module looks at the current node object. So technically, theoretically, it should be possible, but even I haven't tried it with the setup. But when we trigger this, it's basically building the node and getting the HTML from there. So yeah, it's something that it's worth exploring. Okay.
Also, someone else had raised their hand. If not, guys, I would recommend keep putting questions in the chat, and I think we can cater to all the questions towards the end of the session. Cool. Akhil, back to you.
Okay. So maybe I'll first explain the steps. So now what we are going to do is we are going to see how we can contribute to an issue under AI. So at any point, if my screen is getting stuck, please let me know. So what we are going to do is there is this issue available, which is related to AI CKEditor. And the issue is that within AI CKEditor, if we enable the translate option, so here for basic HTML, translate option, there are 2 options to select the languages to which the content has to be translated. The first option is to select the languages that are installed in the site. which is this language option. Second option is to create where you have to create a taxonomy and add the languages or terms there and select from there. So the second option works correctly, but the first option, when we use the language option, it's not working. So I'm going to select language here. And let me just enable this as well. Translate is now enabled. Save this and go to content. Let's say I want to translate the article we created to Spanish. So here the translate option is now available. So I'll select the content that needs to be translated and click on translate. Here you can see it's displaying this English and Spanish, but this is actually coming from I have another vocabulary called languages. It's actually coming from the languages vocabulary and it won't work. Even if I click on create, nothing is happening. We are seeing an error, and within the recent log messages, it says it will show a call to member function get name. So we're going to fix this issue and contribute back to this issue. Someone has already done some initial work for it, and I have extended on that. So before contributing, if you don't have an account on Drupal.org, you first need to create a user account. And once you create a user account, you have to set up Git access, which is basically adding your SSH key to Drupal.org GitLab from here. Because now, like if you have contributed maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we were using patches, but now the contribution is completely managed through GitLab. And once that is done, when you log in, you will see this create issue fork button. So click on that. Now that the issue fork is created, we'll get these commands, which basically creates a branch and creates a branch for this, and we can run these one by one to make the changes and push. And the next thing you need to have is you need to clone the AI module or download the dev release. So I have downloaded dev release. So for that, just go to the module, and here the issue is in 1.2 branch. So under the stable releases, we can see 1.2, and from here you can see this development version. Click on it and download the module using Composer. Okay, now I will switch to my terminal. I hope my terminal is visible.
Yeah, Akhil.
Okay, so
Maybe there's some issue happening whenever you try to share your terminal.
let me try opening the terminal from VS Code itself.
Yeah, let's try that.
Is my code editor visible?
Yep.
Okay. So I have this instance here where I have downloaded the module and I have already made the changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to the modules folder.
No, I think, Akhil, your screen is stuck again. Maybe just skip terminal. Do not try opening a terminal when you share your screen.
Okay. So
Yeah, just start sharing again.
what I can do is I'll please fix the issue. Like I have everything pre-set up. So let me just do that. I'll share my Chrome window and I'll explain like what I'm doing.
First.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I have cloned the AI modules. I'm going to run these commands one by one. So since I have SSH key setup, I'm going to copy these 2 commands. And I'm going to run it. I'm running it in my terminal. And then the next command. So I'm skipping this. We have to run either any of this. I'll recommend running this. And then the next step is to create a branch. So simply copy this command and create a branch. Okay. The next step is to make the changes. So I have already made the changes and I'll show you if it's working or not. Like I'll show you how it's working now. So let me just open this.
Okay, you'll probably need to stop sharing and share again. Share the tab where
Sure,
your
sure.
local website is running.
Yeah, I'm just copying the code once.
Okay.
I hope my site is visible again.
Loading up. Now we see the config screen. Okay.
Great. I'm going to the text formats and
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Piyush.
All right. While Akhil joins back, there has been a thunderstorm in this region and there are network issues today. But we can still see his
Yeah.
screen.
I'm back.
We can
Hear
see
me now?
his screen. Yeah.
Okay.
We can see his screen now. Go ahead.
Yeah. Here you can see now within the translate tab, when language is selected, we don't have any extra options of selecting the vocabulary. Whereas if taxonomy stem is selected, we get these options. So all you have to do after making the code changes, simply commit the change, and to push the changes, run this command. The changes will get pushed, and after pushing, we can directly create a merge request from here. So that's it. Maybe I'll show that tab.
Just switch to the tab if you have updated them.
No, I haven't updated, but is the issues visible?
Yeah.
Okay. So from here, like after making the change, so we are till here now, created a branch, then make the changes, fix the issue, verify it, test it. After testing, commit it. After committing it, to push the changes, run this command. Then your changes will get pushed to the Drupal.org. Then all you have to do is create a merge request. So I'm not going to show that now because of obviously the net problems with my internet, but that's it. That's how you basically contribute to an issue.
Right. How do people interact? Where do people
Yes,
get the right support from?
exactly. If you have any doubts or if you are stuck somewhere, then there is AI Slack available. There are 2 channels available. So join them and you can ask your questions. There are a lot of people there to help.
I mean, not very sure if first maybe I can share my screen and show this. Let me know if my screen is visible.
Yes.
So we have 2 channels. One is AI for general conversations related to AI. And then you have AI Contrib, which is there for Contrib related support around anything that you're working around Drupal AI ecosystem. So to join these channels, these are places to get the right information about what's happening in the Drupal AI ecosystem, at least even if you're not contributing. Just reading through that channel helps you understand what's happening in the ecosystem today. There are a couple of other channels related to AI, but these are 2 prime channels which I would recommend anyone who's looking forward to contributing back to join in, or someone who wants to ask a question about Drupal AI. Like, for example, Rahul, your question about is there a testing framework related to Drupal AI or no, right? You could go ahead and put this question out in the channel, and there will be a bunch of folks who are working around Drupal AI contribute back to the question, respond back to the question. We'll quickly take up these questions which are there in the chat. Starting with the last one, Rahul, there is a testing framework, AI testing framework. There's a model called as AI testing or AI test. I can shed more light on this, but
Yeah. Yeah, there is. So if you want to test AI agents, then there is AI agents test module available, which can give multiple prompts and test the output. And you can add pass and fail conditions. And based on that, it can be run multiple times. And you can test how the output is varying with different prompts. And then for agents, I think there are some other modules available called mocking. I don't exactly remember the name of that, but that's there in the documentation of AI module.
perfect. Your suggestion for contribution, Rahul? Yeah, I think there are meta issues which are already created around these areas for use cases for which we need to build recipes, common use cases around which the recipes need to be built up. As well as there's a huge support that's needed in the community to support the Drupal AI ecosystem. The goal is to make Drupal as the best AI-enabled open source CMS out there in the end. Are there any more questions? If not, I'll take 2 more minutes before we close this conversation. Yeah, Rahul, go ahead.
Yeah, so the question I asked regarding like functional tests, whenever we do raise a PR or MR, do we have to write a functional test case around it? And the question was related to that, like if yes, then how we'll be able to get the real and not real, but the mocking real response.
There is a module available for that. It's already done in AI, and so you can look at the existing tests available there to see how the response from the provider can be mocked and tested.
All right. If there are no more questions, I would like to thank Akhil and thank all of you for patiently listening to us. I'll take 2 more minutes just to talk a little bit about what Drupal AI Code Sprint at Oaisys is about. So what we're looking at doing is Jamie and Marcus are coming down to Pune during those 2 days. Folks who don't know about Jamie and Marcus, they're the folks who have led the foundation for AI within Drupal. So this could be a very good time for you to connect with them in person, talk about what you are building, talk about the kind of problem statements that you have been running into with AI. Also, we're looking at doing a dedicated or focused code sprint focused around a couple of areas where Drupal needs to advance for becoming the best AI-enabled open source CMS out there. You can register for the event on the website, theoaisys.com. We're also looking at people who have experimented with Drupal AI, not necessarily built something in production with Drupal AI. We're looking at real use cases. Of course, if you've done something in production, it would be good to hear about that. But if you're running some experiments within Drupal, tools that you've integrated, you've tried, things didn't work out, we have a show and tell track where we want to hear from people who are experimenting with Drupal AI. Also, this would be a very good place to gain support, direction, feedback on the way we are trying to implement Drupal AI. Oaisys would be the perfect place to get that feedback about. So if you are someone who has been experimenting with Drupal AI, make sure that you submit a session or submit your show and tell proposal on this via the site. For all of you, if you can take out a minute or so to leave feedback about this webinar, it would be really great. We're going to conduct a series of these webinars, so your feedback will help us improve the next set of webinars that we run. If you found something valuable as a part of the session, make sure you share the word about this webinar series within your network. The more people that we gather within this webinar series, the better reach out, and we'll be able to build more people who can contribute back to the Drupal AI ecosystem. You can scan the QR code here, or I'll put the link to the chat. The QR code is correct. You can use this feedback form. Or if you want us to focus on any specific areas around Drupal AI, anything specific that you want to hear from us about as a part of this webinar series, feel free to drop a note in the feedback form about it. The next session in this webinar series is going to be about how do you implement search and RAG within Drupal. We're looking at doing this on November 5th in the next week. Do keep a watch on LinkedIn announcements. You can follow the Oaisys LinkedIn page for the announcements about the next session. Also, for the folks who have RSVP'd for this event, you should receive an email invite to RSVP for the next event. All right. With that, I would like to thank you all for your time, curiosity, and your participation in making this first webinar successful, guys. And I really look forward to meeting most of you as a part of Oaisys. For any other queries that you have related to the event, you can also drop an email on queries@theoaisys.com, and we'll try to respond back ASAP to you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see so many people joining in. I hope all of you are leaving from this session with something, a step in terms of your know-how about Drupal. Thank you all.